further.
And Robin, being also an EWC veteran, had a team last year that performed quite well. But here we go into our first game of our match 3. Citadel Gaming versus Twisted Minds will have full prismatics, and it's going to be a good one.
Very, very fun.
It's going to be very spicy then. But for the Citadel squad, this is a bigger task than the one they had yesterday. The Fnatic roster are good within EMEA. They're regionals players. They've went to Crowns, but they're not this level of experience going from this Twisted Minds roster. The support staff for Twisted Minds as well, they have Tanner and Horror X behind the scenes, who Horror was always praised as one of the best coaches in China. Even
brilliant minds of TFT.
And that's really going to help this squad.
Absolutely. When you just have so many smart people on your side, right? TFT, a lot of the time, is a game of preparation, of understanding these specific lines, especially when it is a set that's only 2 weeks old, right? You're gonna not have all the reps that you would like to be comfortable on every single line, every single play style. And so just having all those resources there is helping this team out tremendously.
And I think whichever team progresses as well, they do get that extra day off. So having those resources behind the scenes, going away and able to VOD review, that's why it's so important to get your business done early. Get through the group stage, and then you can really iron out any of those kinks and figure out exactly how you can progress even further.
Absolutely. Now, this is not an elimination match, right? Both of these teams will still be moving on to at least tomorrow, but it will be a deciders match for the loser of Twisted Minds and Citadel Gaming. It is going to be a nice one-day gap for the winner, however, as we're on board with Robin Songs and now Solus, both having Ezreal 2s to open things off.
Very familiar holds early game. The likes of Ezreal, the likes of Garen, and Malphite we see here. There's a lot of these one costs that are really high priority. Solus clearly has a few crew units. The likes of Prismatic Ticket open up so many of these reroll lands. We're going to be seeing so many Prismatics. And there's a lot of them, the likes of Exalted Adventure, a little bit more coin flippy, but in this setting, when you want somebody that can be potentially a win-out player, very valuable.
Just hit Exalted Adventure and get GP.
Jin Mundo. That's a good one
or
as well.
Jin Mundo. Yeah, that's a good one. Cat Rakan, perhaps, as well. Probably not going to be the route. However, it's just way too high variance, and you want to control your variance as much as possible in any game of TFT, unless you really need to just play for, like, oh, I need to win out, right? And that's like some Tactician's Crown kind of format with a checkmate. We are not doing that here. It is a team format. You can control that variance very well. Solus picking up a Malphite 2 on the bench there. And ooh, we see the Wandering Trainer being the pickup off that RNG for Ahau.
So Prismatic Destiny into Wandering Trainer, so a complete random output both times there. And we talked about maybe not taking the risk. Prismatic Destiny, just the risk is fairly low though, because you get so much gold coming through. There's not many misses. This is really good. And
unless you're Sojourn to get Mess Hall.
Well, of course, yeah. But even then, you can still kind of make things work out a little bit. You're still getting a lot of gold early. But in this particular instance, this dummy is really nice. We essentially just have a Leona on that front line. So much direction early on in how we can play this.
Absolutely. That direction is going to make a game a lot easier, right? If you're scrambling, be like, oh, where do I want to go in any single game? It's like you might be able to make, or you might make more wrong decisions because of that. But if the game kind of plays itself for you, gives that direction, that's not only time where you are not going to be worried about your own spot, but you can dedicate that time to scouting out the enemy, right? And feeding information to your team during that time as well. Yeah,
and we saw on the other side, it was Prismatic Destiny into Hard Commit, and then that was Star Guardian. So another player that already knows exactly where they're taking this game. Checking here with Flancy. +1 Sorks, which isn't the best +1 because you normally just drop one of them anyway. But again, like you said, more direction, having an early slam to come through, maybe just wanting to make sure there's no question marks when you get later into the game of where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe you can get to 6 Sork like a turn or two earlier, right? But as soon as you find all of them, and then Gwen goes in as well, right? It would be great if Sork was a chase trait, right? You get the Prismatic tier, but we are not living in that world, unfortunately. So Sork, not the best. It is still going to just lean into a good composition, right? The stats on Sorks into today were very, very good, just behind the GP. But it was more popular than GP, right? Just because it's more likely that more players can go the Sork line in a game than contest a reroll composition.
Yeah, we saw it have more success when there was 3, potentially even 4 way in some instances. From the Citadel squad, we saw it yesterday where they have this one player that is going for full open and then one player that they really want to push tempo. And exactly already we've seen that early on where going long, just allowing you to slam items, constantly be a level ahead of everybody really, just get yourself that strong board. And we're checking in here.
Wow.
Protagonist is forcing us onto the Malphite Hero Augment, which I don't think would have been picked up any other way.
No, I don't think so. But there's the Sivers on the bench, right? There's a Janna that players are re-rolling with this line as well. How do you like the Malphite Hero Augment? Do you think it could contest versus some of these really strong compositions?
I think the one problem with it, compared to a lot of the other hero augments, you don't change your composition too much. You just play, whether you get the Garen one, you just play the same standard line, you just have an extra unit on there. Same with the likes of Zac, you still just play Wraiths. But you can't play the crew, because the crew relies on a solo frontliner that is Malphite that's going to live forever. And this Malphite is not tanky, so you do have to go for this protector line. And it's a little bit awkward, but there is a crew player potentially on the other team. I do believe that Citadel had someone angling it, so you could just be shutting them out of that line completely.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be very nice, right? A lot of the strength in some of these games is high tempo, so if you shut someone out and deny their line, they're just kind of scrambling to pick up the pieces, trying to avoid 8th place. And if you're doing that to multiple players, right, all of a sudden you are in such a really rough spot.
Especially when they've taken Prismatic Ticket, so they're going to have to reroll something, and reroll's not exactly something you can figure out later on. You really need to decide early in this game, so it does put them in a little bit more of an awkward position. But the crew definitely could support multiple players. We are seeing though Solus is holding 2 Kales as well, I believe, so that could be the potential out instead. Yeah,
Kale, the stats on it from day one were not very good at all. It's only 3 games, but it went 8th place in 2 of them. It was a 7.33 average. So Kale was not being played from very good spots, perhaps, or it just really can't stand up to the rest of the meta right now. However, we have been seeing a rise today in some of the other reroll lines. I think Kaisa being one of them that we've seen at least better spots, and players are willing to go in that direction. So we'll have to see if that's going to be an option for anyone.
Yeah, Kaisa feels like it's really stepped forward. Yeah, at least yesterday on the B stream we didn't have it. We're not sure in every lobby. Maybe it was a little bit more relevant. But
there was only 4 games of it overall yesterday.
Oh, well, there we go. Exactly. And it does show how the meta's evolving, where things are starting to step forward. We had 2 Kaisers in 1 game today, so already much more frequent. And it does show that even tomorrow or the day after, as you progress through this competition, new things will arise.
Absolutely. I always am a fan of how the meta evolves over the course of a tournament, especially one towards the beginning of the set. And I think some teams do have some secret tech that they're not showing yet. Of course, you need the spot for it. You can't always be forcing the secret tech, and you're not going to want to show it this early anyway. But I'm sure, especially the teams that have all those resources, right? A team like Twisted Minds, I think they would be cooking some stuff up that they can show a bit later on.
Yeah, you want to save them for the latter stages of the competition. You want to pull that out as late as you possibly need it when you're up against it. And when you're a roster like Citadel coming in who had a 2-0, you don't need to show your hand yet. You weren't at any point in that do-or-die position. And neither of these teams are, like we said, neither of them are getting eliminated here, so they don't have to pull out the crazy shenanigans just yet. But as we do look early on into this game, Kai Weng very, very strong. Potentially Junjie as well, getting a 5 streak, so they'll be hoping... I think this Citadel squad would like to tag them, because Kai Weng, currently level 6 off the back of going long, could end that Junjie streak, and that would be really nice for this squad, especially when they have 2 potential 5-streakers coming in here.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be massive and have massive implications for the rest of the game. Kai Weng, a player who really impressed yesterday in competition, really held his own, got a couple of top 4s yesterday for Citadels, and really didn't miss a beat when it comes to this high-pressure, high-stakes TFT in the 4v4 format, and it is going to be Kai Weng running up against Dank Memes, unfortunately not Shunga, so we'll see if both players are able to hang on to their win streaks moving into the first neutral round.
Yeah, Citadel really heavily favoring this streak approach. Either way, we've seen it have so much success for them yesterday, having someone completely open, other people pushing tempo. We've seen a lot of other teams not really do that as much. They treat the game as they normally would, where they go, okay, you've got a win streak spot, okay, you can in this particular game, but Citadel are almost forcing it. They're going, you're the person that's going to slam 5, you're the person that's going to sell your board completely, you can 5 loss. And it's working out really well for them so far.
Yeah, they even have 2 players full loss streaking with Solus and Robin Songs from Citadel.
3 full streakers coming in is an incredible position to be in.
Absolutely. Now they just got to be able to convert on that, right? Solus and Robin both need to be able to hit. Solus with that prismatic ticket, right? Going towards perhaps a reroll line. Already having a Rage Blade to work with now. Not sure how many Gangplanks are in this game, but that's certainly going to be leaning towards that potential direction.
Was holding those kills early, decided to get off crew due to the Malphite hero augment coming through.
Yeah.
Sold those kills, so as you said, I guess it will be the Solus is the contester on the GP line. You can't let someone have a free hit at it.
No,
but
definitely
playing
not.
it from behind, a little bit more awkward.
Absolutely. It has to have some really good rolls in stage 3 to catch up and really just stabilize the bleeding immediately. It will not be a level 6 right now, however, but maybe 3-2 be willing to roll down some. It does also depend on what augment comes through, but just trying to make any single board work right now. And I think that is the determining factor of like a great TFT player, is able to play the strongest board at every single point in the game to, even if you're lose streaking, right, just kill enough units as possible to not take that much damage.
Yeah, HP is just a massive resource, especially in 4v4. If you get an extra life later in the game and you can give that life to your teammate, who's a potential win-out player, we just saw with Aegis, they needed this position. They needed to have their teammates be willing to sacrifice to allow their win-out player to step forward. So it matters even more than it would regularly. Kai Wang here, off the back of that going long, is now level 7, so in a really comfortable position, has a lot of HP to work with. JG Guardbreaker coming through as well, and just that is best in slot on pretty much any AP carry.
Yep, absolutely. That item, right, is just going to be working so well for AD and AP boards. It really is just so flexible. Going to be doing a lot of damage here into Shunga. So Kai Wang protecting the streak and ending that of Shunga.
Yeah, avoiding him in stage 2 made a massive difference there, because you are this level 7 at 3-1 instantly, which is really nice. More prismatics, as we were promised. We will be getting a full prismatic lobby here.
Absolutely.
And we know how powerful Bronze for Life can be. Belt Overflow's been really solid. Pipeline, never a bad option. So some great potential here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of wondering, and I think Shunga is as well, like, what do you want to reroll first? It kind of depends not only on his spot, but the spot of the players in the rest of the lobby. So it will not be the Bronze for Life, as is good in compositions like GP and some others. But Belt Overflow, perhaps, right? It's going to be great for the front line, but no, in fact, it is not.
Goes for, I believe, just the AP items coming through here as well.
Yes.
So realized that he was actually lacking a little bit of damage, was just running tank items on top of this Malphite. This does solve that problem. You do get some AP components coming through. Elsewhere, we saw +1 Prodigy picked up for our Wandering Trainer player, so that is going to provide even more power. Already has a copy of Yumi as well, so we talked about how this dummy is essentially Leona. And now we've got +1 Prodigy on top of it. We've already got an early Yumi. We've got a Malzahar behind it. Really solid opener.
Yeah, I think for multiple members of Twisted Minds, there's really good spots to just build off of this strength, right? Especially with an early Yumi. Right here, right, we have the Malphite with those AP items, right, coming through like you were saying. I think the biggest thing that Citadels has going for them right now is Kai Wang up there at the top. A lot of HP to work with. Dank Memes is still rather healthy as well, although did take a loss in that round. And now just 3 members of Twisted Mind joining Kai Wang in the top 4.
Flancy here. Berry Treasure's coming through on the back of +1 Sorks. Potentially going to get to the point where you could itemize something like Sork Rise when you're running that board. Maybe that's the line we'll go towards. Just has so many extra items to work with, so we'll be itemizing multiple carries.
Yeah, definitely. We get that Radiant Ginsu's for Solus on this GP line, and yes, that was the direction that he chose to go. From that full kind of open fort style, have that prismatic ticket, and if you're re-rolling at level 6 and getting kind of lucky and getting all those free rolls coming through, there's no surprise that Solus did hit Gangplank 2. It has a respectable amount of gold, right? 35 left, maybe able to sell up to 40. Not the worst spot for him.
And he hit the core of the comp as well. He has a Jarvan already. He has the Rise, which is the most
so
important hit. The awkward spot where you have the mentor units on the bench, completely avoided. It seems to be the GP players always do this. They always hit 3-2 Rise. I'm not sure what's different to them compared to when I'm playing it on ladder, but
I don't know. Just be better. Just be lucky or just hit.
They seem to find the way every time, but rewarded for rolling early before those Rises can be denied. But we see here, Robbing dropping the round up against that Yumi already. Really strong position to be in.
Absolutely, and we see that Malphite is getting some wins in a row here for Shunga, 2 in a row now, and there's some interesting units on the carousel here when it comes to that Akali, right? All out Cassante and Akali has shown a lot of strength throughout the event so far, and a rise as well for any players who are going that mentor direction. Achen, however, does just grab that because they are going Gangplank as well, so a massive pickup. I think that's what you do. We answered the question. That's what you do when you don't hit on 3-2. You just grab one from the carousel coming up.
Well, there you go. Exactly. The most valuable pickup, and does have Prismatic Pipeline, so realize that the competitor on the flip side, Prismatic Ticket, is going to be rolling aggressively. He's going to be ahead on tempo. The best way to respond to that is, okay, they can have stage 3. I'll wait for this pipeline to come through, and then I can start doing my rolls myself. So pretty good spots across the board for both teams here. Neither team has somebody that looks completely lost, which is when you're in a dire situation, you have someone that's basically just going 8th.
Yeah.
Not the case here for both squads, especially now that all-out Cassante has been found. Robin was the one player that was a little bit more open, now having some clear direction.
Absolutely. Every single player, like you're saying, having that direction. Going to be really interesting to see if Kaiwang is able to carry this streak forward once more into neutrals, right? 10 wins would be so strong. But now we see how Solis's Gangplank will stack up against this Malphite. Does get CC'd there momentarily. Edge of Night is still available, but it gets procced there. I think one more cast from this Malphite. No, actually dashes away and GP heals up, and that actually is allowing that win to come through versus Shunga.
I think Shunga's board there. Malphite's not going to be getting much stronger the game goes on, and it's quite a sorry state of affairs that he's losing that particular round. I think has shown the way to make it work, just itemized it as a tank for the time being until those AP items were presented, and then we'll just push on, play this protector line. I'm wondering what his secondary damage dealer will be. If he's going to reroll for Janna, it feels like it's better to push on in levels in this particular spot, but you need something behind it to put some output.
Yeah, right. You're going to a bunch of protectors, so you're going to need some other damage dealer. Malphite cannot just do it on his own. Going to have to see. I think he'll be going for that one in Stage 4, right? When you push levels, you can find some kind of backliner to pair with that. And now Kaiwang, we've seen actually so often players play around this early Ezreal, and it actually just does enough damage, crazily enough, as a 2-star 1-cost champion. Even with absolutely no frontline items to work with, right? There is going to be that cybernetic augment there, which gives Poppy a little bit of extra AP and mana generation with that belt, but really it's just not that much. It's just the power of pushing levels very early. Yeah,
the power of pushing levels, just tempo, be the player with the most HP. And on the flip side, Dynamemes was the player that was leaning towards this Star Guardian line, so Kaiwang more than likely will want to get into Prodigy. That is contested though, so Kaiwang might be in a position where he's stuck between two compositions, but has a nice setup for either one that he lands on regardless, and will be able to use this HP as a resource to donate some rounds to Robin, to Solas later in the game.
Absolutely, and we get into these neutrals, get to see Shunga on a very healthy gold amount, right? Level 761. Will be able to level up either next round or 4-2, really, if he wants to push that forward a bit more. Checking out Solis's roles here. This is 6 Gangplanks, a pair of Jarvans, right? It already hit that rise a bit earlier, but a bunch of Yasuos as well. Actually, is closer to Yasuo 3 than Gangplank 3, which oftentimes is the case with how much players are denying Gangplank in this event.
Yeah, Gangplank, Kabuko more often to be held, and the likes of Yasuo just kind of arrive. The only real competitor is the other player in the lobby that is playing GP. So Solas, he will keep digging. Yasuo 3 doesn't really have anything to slam on top of the time being, but as you said, digging for this GP now will just be going all the way every turn.
Does not find it, is selling a few more units, finds another Kabuko as well. Is going to pick that one up. Even selling the Jarvan pair, wants to hit right now, and there it is going to be able to grab that. Has another Kabuko in the shop as well that he can lock for if the gold doesn't come through. But that's the power of Prismatic Ticket, right? So many rolls came through to hit GP at a pretty key point, right? Stage 4 is when so many people are going to be rolling for their level 8 boards if they went that direction and getting so strong. Solis really does not want to fall behind at this point.
I didn't have to sell too much. Did give up the Jarvan pair, did give up the Aatrox, which is your next in, but you can find the Aatrox at any point. And able to get enough gold back here where you don't have to lock, you can pick up this Kabuko as well. So the potential for Kabuko 3 suddenly in a really good position. And I think you completely go all the way there. Once you're one off, especially with how contested this unit is, how much denying is going to be in place, you've just got to keep going until it arrives.
Absolutely. Taking a look at the augment selection for it, appears Flancy here with a little Academia Star Guardian Prodigy board. Oh, Radiant Relics is always just a standard one that's very good. Water Lotus as well, maybe some potential. Kaiwang, actually, it's very surprising to see a player go into like the 11 streak and 12 streak, because oftentimes when you are that healthy, you're just going to be sacrificing some rounds in stage 4 and trying to push perhaps level 9 and cap out your board that way. But Kaiwang still keeping it forward and is going to be that Lotus selected.
I mean,
oh, it was for Solis, actually. The Cam of Flancy tripped me up.
Yeah, neither of these I don't think any of the options really stood out. This is definitely perfectly fine, and it just adds a little bit more utility to the board as well. They're going to be casting more often. But you could tell he didn't instantly rip one of them, so I wasn't totally convinced. As you said, though, Kai Weng's on a streak, Solus is on a streak. Citadel don't have anybody that's dropping dangerously low, so in a really good position here.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, Twisted Minds, they've got clear direction. Kai Weng's actually got to this Yuumi board before Ahau on the other side. So even though it looks actually here how maybe is picking up this victory.
Another cast. Oh,
Just
so close.
barely there, but Kai Weng's got so much HP to work with. Having him holding hands with the opposition player is perfectly fine. He can take a few more hits. He can go toe-to-toe with that composition.
Yeah, absolutely. You have the HP. It's a resource, and it's going to be used right now. Kai Weng. I think the real crucial part is who's going to deny these Yuumis, right? That's a very crucial part for a couple of strong players in this game. And if you're not able to hit Yuumi 2, the power of that composition really just falls off a cliff, honestly.
Yeah, and you can see Archen here has went to level 7. Is in the position where if GP arrives, great, but unfortunately not really in the position to guarantee it. The GP
0
3
gold.
is already out the pool. And we've just seen this time and time again, GP is so powerful, and it's just the race to that GP3. Whichever team hits that first is just in such a better position. That player can then just go full denial, they can just switch up their game plan. They know they're the strongest player in the lobby for the next few rounds, and they can just focus on playing defense.
Absolutely. We see there's 4 Gangplanks left in the pool, 2.6% chance to roll one. So as you were saying, Chen not really going to be aggressively going for that. If it comes, it comes, but you can't be relying on it at this point. Flancy on a 6-loss streak as well. And taking a look at the board right there, right? It's a Karma 2, has some pretty good items, but maybe not that much in terms of the combat power with these augments coming through.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the +1 Sork, it's not doing an awful lot.
No,
and I
it's
think
not.
Anything econ orientated would have gave you so much more power. You can play the denial game, you can do much more for your team. The +1 Sork just means until you get Gwen, it's a little bit more helpful, but I feel like the entire game, restricting yourself to, as well, never being able to pivot to potentially Yuumi if that was what arrived.
Yeah.
Just Karma the entire game, knowing that's your game plan. But not the best +1, I don't think, in this particular lobby.
No, the +1 is not the win condition of that board by any means. It's not even that great early on either. It's of minimal power, maybe equivalent of like a little bit less than a gold augment, honestly, it kind of feels like. In terms of that power level, Chen here is going to be on a rise 2 as well with a Jewel Gauntlet, providing a little bit of extra damage for the backline. Shunga has won 2 rounds now again in a row, has found some backline power just in the form of that Janna. Nothing else crazy to work with, however, for now.
Yeah, I really wonder how far this board can go. I mean, as long as we can stay alive till Malphite 4, then we are going to have this massive damage dealer that is going to be able to be very tanky as well as outputting a lot of damage. But you seem for the time being,
Cassante just ripped through
really struggles for the time for this stage of the game, and we're a long way until it's Malphite 4, and we just don't have any other damage on this board. We saw Poppy 2 was hit, which was thrown in instead of Ari, but yes, we've got a lot of meat in the front line, but is Malphite alone able to deal with this? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's the second Malphite 3 coming through. Probably staying on the board, at least for now. But 9 more rounds to go until that will be Malphite 4. I think Shunga is in a maybe a viable spot to see that Malphite 4, but it will come down to, I think, some lucky matchups, maybe teammate sacrificing, being like, all right, we got to prop you up. But if you take a look at the HP of Twisted Minds, there's not a lot of room for these players to sack for them.
No, it certainly isn't. And as a team, do you back the Malphite hero augment to be a win condition? I'm going to say no.
Probably not.
I imagine, are we going to put this player forward? Probably not. So I imagine we'll just start bleeding out. Flancy's already in potential elimination range. Achen's also in a potential elimination range fairly soon. So things are looking really rough for this squad.
Yeah, and we see, I don't remember the augment name, but where there's only one item on every single unit on the board, and it becomes a radiant item.
Quality over quantity.
Yes, right, that's the one. Had a lot of fun with that one actually early on in the set. I think we see the power of it here as well. It's not going to be something that is going to be able to, always win the lobby, right? But you do get a ton of value, especially on a board where you look at the quality of these units, and most of them are pretty solid.
Yeah, Star Guardian is one of the compositions which really likes that. We've got the extra belts coming through as well, so we've just got double Radiant Warmogs on the front line. Because it does feel like Star Guardian can lack the front line sometimes. This definitely helps make up for that. And just reliable and solid. It's going to probably finish middle of the pack. It's not going to be winning this lobby, but it's a strong board. It's never going to be in those bot 2 positions, and that's exactly what the Citadel squad needs.
Well, we see a potential win condition for Flancy, or at least a hold on for a few more rounds condition, and it's going to be that Swain 3 in the front line. There's a Ionic Spark and a couple of Stone Plates there, because there's some decent damage to the back line, right? It's Perfect Items Karma. There is a TF now in the back line with that Sorcerer emblem, so that's going to be providing a decent amount of damage. Kaiwang, however, 10 units available on the board because of that Crown Augment. Going to have a decent amount of front line around that Leona 2, and now going to be the Cassante as well. Yeah,
in a really nice position. Level 9. We're checking here with one of our GP players, the one that unfortunately for this Twisted Mind squad just never was in the position to hit. Never was in the position to find Kabuko as well. On the other side, we saw Yasuo 3 arriving and just all these crazy things. So it feels like when you fall behind on tempo, when you're forced to take something like Prismatic Pipeline, you're not coming online early enough to really contest. And we're seeing how this comp can struggle when it does fall behind.
Important matchup on the left here between Achen and Ahau actually running into each other. And both might not be eliminated here, but actually Achen was. I think that was the exact amount of units needed to do that. So
Flancy drops out
Flancy as well. So already Twisted Minds going 7-8, which means they need to go first and second between Shunga and Ahau in this lobby. And taking a look at Citadel Gaming's position, I'm not sure Twisted Minds will be able to do it.
I can't see that being the case at all. As you've said, Ahau there, they gave him the win. Ultimately, I think that was the correct decision because the GP player, there's no point trying to keep them alive. The chance of spiking that board had gone. Fancy dropping out as well, though. I mean, you have a Malphite player. I don't think there's room in the top 2 for you. And then the HP gaps are really big. Solus is the lobby winner, potentially. We're seeing he's got the strongest comp in the meta
Darvin
online.
2 as well. Still more upgrades that came through.
Still more coming through. I mean, he sold them off later. He could find them now. Loads of time. Robin on a reliable composition. Dank memes on that Star Guardian, very solid. Line selection here from the Citadel squad was just perfect.
Absolutely. Not only the line selection, but how they got to each line selection as well, I think. 2 players between Robin and Solus, both on our screens right now, who had that 5-loss streak in the early game, and were able to both end up on very strong lines that were very different play styles, right? One with the reroll, right? Solus had committed to that Prismatic ticket. Robin saying, all right, I'm going to play for a level 8 board, found that Cassante, but they all just executed so insanely well.
I think this squad really is the real deal. I mean,
I think so.
The fact that they've got this approach where they just value econ so much more. I mean, you look on the side of Twisted Minds, Flancy took +1 Sork. I can't imagine there's a scenario where Citadel would have taken this. They'd rather take some suboptimal econ augment and just say, okay, this player 5 losses. And they did it here. Every time we've seen this squad come out, if someone just doesn't have the best augment opener, they're like, okay, you just 5 loss, you play Denial. They always have someone that's pushing levels and trying to just set the tempo. And I think they're just valuing the streaks so highly in this 4v4 format. And you can almost guarantee streaks. As soon as you get 1 or 2 wins on the board, if you fought the opposition, you know you have your teammates coming up. So much more reliable.
Absolutely. Now we get to see if Twisted Minds can have a shot at 1-2ing this lobby, but Ahau is going to be going up against Solus, so it is not quite in the cards. Does drop out. I was like, maybe there's a glimmer of hope potentially, but no. That is going to be Citadel Gaming claiming game number 1.
Game 1 has been won for this squad, and potentially they are going 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. And that is a hell of a
once
statement
yesterday,
to maybe? Yeah, we've only seen it once, I believe, and this squad coming in here, at no point did any of their roster look dizzy, look slightly caught between 2 minds, like, oh, maybe I'm going to have to pivot. The one player that left themselves fairly open, Robin, was just the one who was going, I'm going to push levels. Very early committed to all-out Cassante as well, so just great spots to be in. And now we're in the position to send this Twisted Mind squads entirely bot 4. And just from the mental aspect, that's going to be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to see if this happens first and kind of paint that picture before I go into another longer point, just trying to build up Citadel Gaming and how well they played. But what is the win condition for Shunga here? And Shunga's board, we were talking about, can the rest of Twisted Minds, send Shunga up to a lobby winning position? They weren't able to because they weren't even able to stabilize themselves. But this Malphite line, right? What's the augment name? blanking on it. But anyways, the Malphite direction for Shunga was very strong. Did unfortunately lose a couple of rounds in that stage 3 kind of portion where you really wanted to be collecting some wins. It did stabilize rather well, but maybe not even good enough for a top 4, it seems like, which would be surprising, I think, for Shunga's position. And absolutely there, right, does go out there. We got to see if another one of Citadel Gaming was eliminated there, but no, they were so healthy. 1, 2, 3, 4. What a statement from Citadel Gaming to start things off in this series.
What a statement there. And I think Junjie did his job in that he played just a fairly suboptimal line. That Tectonic Titan off the back of Protagonist.
Yes, right.
It was okay, but the rest of his squad really fell behind. And this Citadel Gaming team, you can see on the cams, so happy. Now they get to play out for a little bit of infighting, see who's going for those MVP points. Yesterday, Kai Wang was awarded our MVP, so these other players will be thinking, you're not getting all the credit, I want to win this game.
Absolutely. It's so fun, right? There's high spirits. You see the smiles on the face of Dank Memes, Kai Wang as well. They're all in very good spirits, and they should be, right? This is 3 games now at the Esports World Cup that they have won in a row, and they're going to be looking to close it out, and I think they have potential to do so. But now, real quick, I wanted to take a look holistically at this game in terms of the comps played from Citadel Gaming, right? They kind of looked at the data, right, I suppose, and Robin was like, okay, I'll play the all-out line, one that was rather good and rather popular, the Yuumi line from Kai Wang with Prodigies, the GP from Solus, and Dank Memes is the key one, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have that really clear direction of a strong, popular meta composition, but landed on the Star Guardians, landed on the Augment, right, to just radiant all of these units up, and like you were saying, this is the perfect comp to do so, and I think that's just great recognition as a player and as a team on how to get this 1, 2, 3, 4, right? All of them are strong.
Yeah, shuffling the items around there, we see just making those tanks in the back line. But I think a few things that do enable Star Guardian, obviously the +1's great, and we got that from the fact of hard commit coming in early. But that alone is not enough. This quality over quantity was such a great pickup. It's just so reliable. You're never going to be the lobby winner if you pick something like that, because when the game goes really late, you start to lose value from it. But it's such a tempo, solid tempo setter. And when you had the likes of Kai Wang, who just 11 streaked, and then Dank Memes just playing a solid tempo board that he's never going to fall behind, they had, in case they needed it, they had the win-out player in Solus. So even if it was going blow for blow, they were dropping out, having the win-out player in 4v4, you're more often than not going to win the lobby because it is that tiebreaker decider. They didn't even need Solus to be the win-out player. They just swept this competition in this game 1 really easily. And time to reflect a little bit here for Twisted Minds, as unfortunately they have to watch out as their competitors are just having fun with it. Yeah,
absolutely. Now they're already going to be thinking, hey, what can I do better? But in terms of this Citadel Gaming squad, I kind of think it feels like they've cracked the code on how to play 4v4, at least in this specific meta, right? I think the prioritization on those win and loss streaks is really, really strong. I'm curious to look back at the data and say, like, okay, if there is a team in a game who has one player 5 streaking, at least one player, you know, 5 loss streaking, what's the percentage of them winning that game? I would think it's rather high.
You would assume it's very, very high, and I think this squad has recognized that. I think having the player that's win streaking as well, they seem to then have them pivot into whoever is the strongest player on the other team, that's who they contest. So Kai Wang, when we looked at this Twisted Minds squad, the one player that looked to be in a really good position was that early Yuumi, the Prodigy line. The +1 Prodigy off the back of as well the opening dummy.
True, from
and then Citadel just had their 100 HP streaker say, well, you can contest him because he doesn't have as much time to work with. It doesn't matter if you don't hit straight away. So it's almost like the win streaker then gets sent on the mission of you contest their strongest spot, bring that spot down, and then we're chilling.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, and I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there with that, because you just have so many resources to be able to do that, right? As long as you don't, terribly low roll, you're going to be able to contest, be in a better spot, while everyone else who's in like an okay spot is still trying to play catch up.
Yeah, they've just done so well here, and Solus now, we know this will probably be the lobby winner. It's the lobby winner time and time again. We've seen the statistics. You don't need the statistics in certain spots, though. We've seen the games. We're seeing it with our eyes how strong this can be. And Solus is just chilling right there. He knows that he's got the comfort line. He's going to win out in this particular game. And Citadel, more of the same, but Twisted Minds will definitely have to switch things up. But this Citadel squad really are all on the same page. You can see having this little bit of time to reflect for Twisted Minds will be helpful. almost the fact that their entire team did go out so early, at least that means the 4 of you can converse.
Yeah.
Because if one of you is still going, they're missing out on the comms a little bit. So I suppose that's the one advantage of getting completely swept.
That's true. Trying to find a little bit of that, saving grace, that silver lining there for Twisted Minds, because I don't think anyone would have predicted this to be the specific result of game number 1 for all of Twisted Minds to be going bottom 4. But now looking at these top 2 compositions, right? First, Citadel's Solus with the Gangplank, of course. We expect this. All Out, actually, for Robin Songs is not quite, at least of yesterday's data, not quite expected to be quite in the top 2. It was played 12 times even, but had about a 5 average and only top forward a little bit under 50% of the time, only in fact winning 1 game. And now it's not going to be a win. It looks, actually, no, Robin's won the last few rounds in a row, so it could actually get that other win. And I think today, overall, the composition has been looking a lot stronger.
Yeah, Robin has the double Akali here, which is really hard to position against. It's always going to be blowing up the backline. Yes, GP doesn't really have any backline carries, but we saw the menace that Akali was causing there. Wondering if it gets to a point where we, if it gets down to it, where we see a sell for a 3-star potentially. It's the spot to do it in if you're just on the victory lap here. But you can see Robin still locked in here, even though this game's done. He wants to be he's the team captain, and he wants to remind the rest of the squad that did pick up that win last time round, but it is going to be incredibly hard to win every round against this GP.
Yeah, absolutely. The Akali's were dealt with, and Robin drops dangerously low to just 1 life left remaining. It's just, hard to get through that capped GP board. There's another Akali. Hey, sell board, sell board, sell board. Do it.
He did win one of the rounds, so maybe he does back himself to actually pick up a win here, rather than going for this Akali 3. But
if he wins this round and with that gold picks up the Akali, gets into stage 7, then sells board. You have to. Oh, you don't care. You don't have to, but it would be the fun play.
That's what we definitely want to see here. But going on here, they've taken us the distance for Shua, and Robin showing the power of this all-out Cassante board, especially the +1, really enabling it here for the Supreme Cells. We've seen people actually pick that as a 2-1 option, +1 Supreme Cell, which feels like really awkward because you're relying on hitting a 4-cost composition, so you're not getting any value for a long time. And then you're relying on hitting all out as well, which isn't a given, even though it's very likely. But we've seen that even have success, so we know how powerful this composition can be. Not strong enough to compete with this GP, though.
Citadel complete the stomp and absolutely rout Twisted Minds in game number 1. The GP composition obviously taking the win there, we've seen all day, but that was some of the cleanest 4v4 play I've ever seen.
They were so far ahead in that game. At no point did they look like any of them were struggling. They had their clear line recognition. And we thought this might be a close series, but based off what we've just seen, we could be for in another 2-0, which has been a little bit of a trend on this day.
It does, especially when I'm here. All the games that I've been a part of have been 2-0s, but now that I just mentioned that, I have indeed jinxed it, so we're going to be here for 3 games. Twisted Mind is going to come back, and that was my first prediction, too, that we're going to go the distance in the series, and you'd love to see that, right? Especially out of such good teams and such pedigree that the players of Twisted Minds do bring to the table. I definitely think they could come back for a game 3.
And I think we just saw in that highlight what really set up this game to be successful for Citadel was the extra gold they got from the loss and win streaks they had early on. Kaiwing had one of the craziest plays and most unselfish plays in 4v4 I have ever seen, being like, okay, I have 100 HP. What is everyone else playing? What can I steal from them? And that's how I'll decide what I'm actually going to play. And because of that, sent out Twisted Minds in that bot. It's 8, 7, 6, and 5th.
Yeah, because Ahau had the strongest position by far in that Twisted Minds roster. We know that with the +1s he had, he really had a win-out composition, and they recognized, okay, Kaiwang, you just go ruin his game, and that'll be enough for us.
Yeah, this is great team play, great recognition of the 4v4 format and how to just get these small advantages. Ahau ended up going 6th in that game because of it, and it was just such dominance for the rest of them as well. It's not only one player or one call from a team going well, it's like everything just lining up for them.
Yeah, absolutely locked in, and we see here all blue at the top. 4 of Citadel Gaming taking those top 4 spots, Twisted Mind at the bottom. And now this is one of those victories for Citadel that is obviously very encouraging for them, but for Twisted Minds, it's like Wow, we got stomped.
Yeah.
Now what?
They got really stomped. And we talked about how big the brains are behind the scenes on this roster.
Yeah.
They have two really big recognized names. And they're going to have to rip things up here because that was a convincing loss from them. And we expected a lot more.
I'm sure the coaching staff, even from Stage 2, had a lot of notes about how that game went and how to improve. So, again, I wouldn't be surprised if we are going to be going the distance in this series. I think Twist and Mind have fantastic players. I think they have shown, especially from day one, that they can make some clutch plays happen when it matters most. Every single game versus Flash Wolves went into the final round to determine that game. No such thing happening here in this one, so they really got to step it up.
Well, Game 2 will be coming up soon. Will Citadel remain undefeated, not dropping a single game so far in the Esports World Cup? Game number 2 of this match will be just on the other side of this break.
I think you can feel it, that this is a magical moment, and not every moment can be precious like this. So come on, here's something you don't want to miss.
Welcome back to TFT at the Esports World Cup, where we're about to find out if Citadel's really cracked the code when it comes to 4v4 after an extremely dominating performance.
I mean, this team looks just the most in sync. I think you can look at some of the other rosters that are performing well. You're like, okay, they have the star power, they're on the same page as, but this team, they're just, everything is just perfect so far. And I don't want to curse them too much, but they're really impressing me, Karan.
Absolutely. I think at every step of the way, it seems like at least they're a little bit ahead, right?
Yeah.
And I think even from day 1 to day 2, they look better, even if they've, even with them looking so good in day 1. I think that's a really, really great sign for them as a team, especially going up again against a powerhouse like Twisted Minds.
And I think one of the buffs from day 1 to day 2 is the stats you can get on the 4v4 meta, because it is a little different than what it is on ladder. Oftentimes you can contest each other a little bit more, and it brings down the power level of some compositions. And I think having that data from day 1 has made Citadel maybe even stronger with their line selection in that game, even playing from some weird spots, but knowing that they really needed to get on that GP early, contest that composition, and it worked out well.
Yeah, I think they've realized that some of these lines, okay, you might have the 1 in 10 that it's, okay, it could be Ash Juggernaut, but actually even if you hit, it's not that good. So they're willing to play temporary boards and still transition into the meta comps and just stick to those things that they know work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a little bit of that individual play that I think allows for those larger team decisions as well, right? If you're able to save HP at any point, then it really could have some great impact for the rest of the team.
And we're going to have an artifact start, so it will be a very interesting game to see what players hit, because these artifacts can enable some very weird compositions.
Darius, that's what I want to see. We've not had a Darius game so far, and it's like the only time you can see it. So hopefully we get at least one for the viewers at home.
Absolutely. I think there was one on the other stream earlier today, actually. There was the Kaisa Darius was the reroll there, and it had, I believe, a mittens on it. Is that what items are you looking for the Anvil to enable Darius?
I think we've seen Prowlers is really good as well, because it can just allow you to just go kind of infinite on that backline. So that is obviously one of the key ones at least. But there's obviously GP is still going to be the premier unit.
Yeah, speaking of.
It allows for so many of these artifacts to really enable him even further.
Midas Touch is very solid in the early game as long as you're able to find that stretchy arms later on. Midas is maybe even preferable in the early game, depending on if you're able to farm up a lot of gold with it. It is Gold Collector. There was a Talisman of Ascension there, which not great for that board, but we saw a crazy Mundo earlier. Not sure which stream it was watching both of them, but there was a Talisman of Ascension Mundo that was real scary, let me tell you.
I liked when people used to do the tech of they put the Talisman unit, just like trap them, and then they were like, okay, let's wait for the fight
Then we unleash them once they proc.
Not really a thing that you do anymore, especially the likes of Mundo. You know he's going to live long enough anyway.
Yeah,
absolutely. That was always a fun tech.
It is Gold Collector, in fact, coming through for Dank Memes, so little bit of an extra chance to be getting that extra econ. Spills of War, Chaotic Evolution, and Kingslayer being the options here.
Delayed start we've seen always be a solid option as well. Just econ. Silver Spoon, also an econ augment. We've seen them be favoured so much. I think delayed start, at least you always guarantee pretty good losses as well. Unless you completely miss on a frontliner, and that's the only way.
Yeah, but do you want to do that when you already have the GP with Midas Touch? It's, arguable at that point. But what do you want to do, right? Is Silver Spoon good enough, right? Get you to that level 5, level 6 bit faster to be getting those extra copies of Gangplank, perhaps?
I think it's solid enough. As you said, it does take the delayed start,
Yeah,
though,
let's do it. Gets out of that GP line. I think that's fine.
We'll have to have a look as well with the rest of the Citadel squad to see if anybody did have a really good GP spot. Maybe that was the discussion that was going down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we see Kai Wang here, potentially the player that's leading it.
With Keepers, right? Even just Keepers 1, it's still a solid amount of value for that GP line.
Has the Flicker Blade as well, so the better artifact.
Yes.
So I think that was the discussion that was going on. Yeah.
Flicker Blade, Edge of Night, bow already there. Absolutely, that was the discussion. And I think once again, Citadel Gaming just not missing at these crucial decision points.
Yeah, that's certainly on the same page there. And with delayed start as well, and you have Collector, you get upgrades. So you're gonna get some value from it. You're gonna at least kill a few units, potentially even streak off the back of what you got as well. So still in a really solid position. So 2 Citadel players early on that seem in perfectly solid spots.
Absolutely. Kai Wang, a very good spot there. Even having a duplicator actually to work with on the bottom there will be crucial in getting a GP3 in a meta where so many players are eyeing to deny it. But we got the fish bones on the Kai'Sa there. For Solus, it is going to be this Garen line, it looks like. How do you feel about Garen?
We've seen it do pretty well. I feel like it's been Protagonist, though, where it's done well, where you guarantee it, and you can tempo it into then Yuumi, and you're just running the standard Yuumi board, but you have this extra damage source through Garen. But I think, in general, it's still solid. You can reroll it with the Ezreal Syndra core that we've seen a lot of the time have success. If you hit it quick enough, you can just then tempo it into Leona. There's the possibility, I suppose, you do Katarina, Rakan things. There's a lot of ways you can take this line.
Yeah, absolutely. Having that Spirit Visage, having the Infinity Force to start things off here. It was just a Garen 1, but we're going to be seeing a Garen 2 hopefully here soon to try to allow that early win streak. Now, taking a look right at these streaks, there is Soulless at the top once again.
Also
Robin Song's at the bottom. Yep, Flicker Blades with Flancy. Oh, these GP players are just hitting. It's simultaneously beautiful and disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's only one on each team. I think Citadel realized you don't want to be part of a three-way, so they got off that line. Both teams having one person on it, both with the same items. Pretty even start as far as things go in that regard. And we saw elsewhere, Manazane Void Staff coming through as well. Just really, really good for that Sork line. Manazane is incredible. You can still also play it on Yuumi as well.
Yep.
So really solid and reliable. We see here, we've got the Mundo Jhin line already kind of committed to as well off the back of that Light Shield. So some really good artifacts that are just enabling these compositions even further.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of good artifacts for a lot of different situations. I think we've seen some metas in the past where there's only really a couple specific artifacts that are very good, but there's a lot of variance here, right? If we look outside of the GP, I'll say there's a lot of options.
Yeah, yeah. GP can almost use anything just because he's so good that even some of the suboptimal ones we've seen have a decent amount of success. But like you said, they do enable some of the compositions. The likes of Sylvamere, the likes of Prowlers, just make positioning a little bit more difficult for some of these compositions. They enable things like Darius, the likes of Jace maybe can even come online. And that's good. We want to see a few more of these things. I think even someone like Nefiri can use some of these artifacts. Not that I think it'll be re-rolled, but it just shows that there is a variety of units that become more viable.
I believe there was Solus yesterday who did have a Nefiri 3 with a Build-A-Bud, so, situations like that. We can see the power. It was able to win streak a decent amount with it. I think it actually was interrupted in Stage 2, but still most of the rounds, the first two stages, were coming through as wins. And yeah, we see Robin essentially open forwarding here.
Operation Lost Streak, the Citadel special. Robin going, looking around. Everyone's got artifacts as well, so you know it's extra difficult to guarantee wins. Okay, I'll just lose streak.
Operation Lose Streak is on a go, but Operation Win Streak has actually been failed already by Citadel Gaming. They have no players at 100 HP. Oddchen is the only player in the lobby. They can bleed. Now we got to see how this lobby goes with them not being able to execute their game plan exactly as they drew it up. How can they adapt is a big question now.
Yeah, I think much less reliable with artifacts coming through. The likes of Fishbones here can just scam around sometimes and deny those streaks. So you know that in general the lobby is going to be much stronger. Solus, though, at least having some clear direction.
Is the only player in the lobby. They can bleed. Now we got to see how this lobby goes with them not being able to execute their game plan exactly as they drew it up. How can they adapt is a big question now.
Yeah, I think much less reliable with artifacts coming through. The likes of Fishbones here can just scam around sometimes and deny those streaks. So you know that in general the lobby is going to be much stronger. Solus, though, at least having some clear direction. Chunjay here with the Fishbones, potentially just playing Kaiser reroll in general. Keeping the option of Jhin Mundo, it looks like, as well. Just holding on to a Nah. So a few ways he could take this, but with elsewhere in the lobby, Mundo Jhin being already looks like picked up, you'd imagine we'll be going down that line.
Yeah, Dank Memes, well, the player who was rocking with that collector and has earned a decent amount of gold, even with those 3 rounds of being AFK, not having a shop, right? Was able to win 2 of them just based off of those early upgraded 1-cost units. Has some solid slams as well with that Spirit Visage and the Even Shroud as well in the front line, going towards an AD direction. But now we gotta consider, right, where are we going from here? Is it going to be a Jhin, a Kaisa perhaps, or are we going some of these AD routes that are later on, right? Maybe even a Volibear Samira, right? That's maybe not the tech that players are going to be leaning towards preferably, but it's an option.
You can tempo that line, especially obviously with coming through the Kalista and the Nefiri as the delayed start. It does make it simpler to just carry on into that Soulfighter route.
Yeah.
We've seen it not have a lot of success, but his items are pretty good for it. Collector, I think, on Samira is actually solid as well. So
yeah, but we get some there spins, right? It's going to be a lot of chances to get that gold collector procced.
Exactly, but the problem is the composition is just mediocre. Like even when you hit everything, unless you can get a Gwen 2, and then it's suddenly you're just denying a Sorc player and you're really strong.
Yeah,
but
it's hard to get it with the Sorc players,
very,
right?
Very hard to get it. So it feels unreliable and probably won't be the one that's picked, but is an option.
Absolutely is an option for that board for Achen here, right? What options are we going for? There is an Ashe on the bench right now.
Yeah.
Ashe Juggernauts, right, are a potential, but nothing that is committed to by any means, at least right now.
Yeah, Jin Mundo would be, I imagine, the best option you could go for there. But as you said, Ashe Juggernauts, it didn't do very well in the game we saw it, but it is an option, and an early Ashe especially, you have the potential to really ramp up and then push to level 8. You need to get to 9 if you're going for that route, though, because you need to get a TF or Zyra as a secondary damage deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, you know, going back to the Citadel Gaming Operation Win Streak and Lose Streak, Operation Win Streak was not realized, but at least Dank Memes is on a 4 streak, right? That's about as good as you could expect without having that 5. Still in a very solid spot, especially if he's able to find some wins at the early stage 3.
Yeah, putting a streak together off the back of delayed start is really nice as well, because you don't mind if you lose those rounds, but the fact you got essentially 2 free wins when you couldn't really do anything to influence them. So Robbing still getting the 5 loss as well, so the Citadel approach of having people on strongest board and other players a little bit weaker, clearly still working out nicely for them. Interested to see the second Augments coming through here, because a lot of players have popped their artifacts, but they could still pivot depending on what Augments they arrive at. It gets presented.
Yep. Kai Wang on the other side of Solus here is level 5, 50 plus gold, farming gold with GP, and is best in slot or near best in slot GP with having GP2. Yeah, 4 win streak for Kai Wang there, 5 for Dank Memes. Aho actually getting towards that streak as well.
Handing just a 1-unit loss to your teammate as well, who's your teammate that's about to reroll, so great time to fight each other, not particularly strong yet. Do see the options here coming through. Magic Roll, always fairly solid, care package similar. Does go for this Magic Roll here.
Yep. Crimea River seems to be pretty universally looked at as not really a clickable augment. Maybe such specific situations you can grab that one, but just going to be going for some guaranteed, at least a little bit of value. Now I'm curious to see where Robin does pivot from this kind of full open position. We're going to be seeing what direction he's going in just a little bit here, but I think a crucial part of if Citadels can 2-0 this is how does he stabilize?
I mean, last game he was the one player as well that was a little bit more open in that he was just pushing for fast 8, and he was the player that ended up on all out. Yeah. So maybe it's something he's actually considering where he's like, guys, I'm comfortable being the player that's a little bit more open. I'll go level 8 and just figure it out. And maybe that's just the captain within him just stepping forward, using that veteran status and just saying, okay, guys, like, I know you'd be much more comfortable in this setting playing something like GP. I will just do my job and just take the more difficult spot to manage.
Yeah, absolutely. Robin still going to be losing out in some of these rounds up against Chen there. Kai Wang, of course, very, very strong. Dank Memes' streak did come to an end, unfortunately, but I think has already put himself in a very solid spot. Gotta see where this board goes, though. Kai Wang as well, of course, with that gangplank. Just so strong.
Yes, so strong. In the awkward spot before Rise in this at this present time where he's just waiting for that extra GP, we see the other GP player also sitting at about 10 gold, but does find the early Rise, so doesn't yet have everything he needs, but that's a really nice pickup and should pretty soon be able to get things going. So both GP players in the familiar position where they just have a really full bench, they spend a lot of gold, it looks like they're holding too much, but you just have to until you can get that Fort Mentor going.
Yeah, Fishbones on the gangplank here. It is attack expert for the GP. And, yep, going to have that extra range, so not necessarily needing that stretchy arms, at least for now. You still do want it ideally, but it is rather solid. There's only 9 gangplanks left in the pool, as we see. I actually love that we have this stat up so we can keep track of your percentage to roll at 7.8. Currently, to roll a gangplank, that's not a very high number, Barry.
No, it's not a very high number, and it's very useful we have this, so we'd like to thank production for bringing this up, because they're aware, just as we are, that GP is the flavour of the month, and just knowing exactly when. Obviously, we do have a few duplicators coming into play in this particular lobby, so it does mean that we might still see the hit, especially with the 2 dupes for Junjie. Yep. So we'll have to keep an eye out, but the chances of 3 stars as this tournament goes on is just getting lower and lower as denying gets more and more common.
Absolutely. Now, this is probably not going to happen ever, but I would love to just have like a compilation of commentators over the first, few days at least of this tournament, and just be saying GP, 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 and just count how many. It'd be like an hour-long video.
Yeah, we were looking at the benches going, he has 2, he has 2. Okay, now we know for certain. That's why these duplicator augments are just so much more value. We talked about econ being important, but
yeah, definitely.
Econ doesn't matter if there's none left in the pool, but having the bailout option really is important here. So Kaiwang doing a little bit more rolling here, just wanting to put the composition together. Upgrading Udi, upgrading Yasuo. Yes, he's still in a great spot, but just looking for that rise. It's a little bit awkward.
Hey, Kaiwang, like you were mentioning earlier, right, has not found the rise on 3-2. And turns out you don't even need to if you're in this strong of a spot, having Flicker Blades, perfect items gangplank from this early on, and having that Keepers to work with as well. You can be stuck in Mentor jail for a little bit as long as you're released eventually. It's fine.
Yeah, and you can upgrade your 3 costs even. Yasuo, the 2 already. Udi, a 2 just waiting in the wing, so you're so strong. If you hit it, he's still 50 gold, raining gold, Midas touch off the back of the GP. Just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money we're spending. Look how much GP is farming here. It's absolutely ridiculous. So rich, and will eventually, hopefully for this squad, find 1 copy of Rise. Well, I do think we'll see it at some point during this tournament where the Rise jail will just be the factor that holds one of these squads back.
Yeah, absolutely. Chen looks like is still level 6, but is not going to go towards that Jhin direction specifically, but will be going for snipers, perhaps still committing to playing around that Ashe. There is another power snacks available, so power up going to be given to the Ashe as well. GP goes in on the board. Ooh, I like that little board transition there. That was cool.
The Crystal Gambits went in as well, so we've got a little bit of potential drip econ coming through here and there. We see Ashe do okay. I think when we saw it last time, it was from behind, whereas this time round, we might be able to at least get to Ashe 2 really early and then possibly go on 9.
Yeah.
And Mundo is tanky enough for the time being. So this is a player that we talk about squads having someone that's going to be middle of the pack. Already you look at this setup and think, well, this isn't going to be the win-out player for us, but should be able to do okay.
Absolutely, and that's very important. You don't really need to win out as long as you have some players with just some consistent middle-of-the-pack results. Dodging 8th, dodging 7th, right? The value of that cannot go understated, and it looks like...
The strategists, as you said earlier.
Absolutely, the strategist. Chen is in a position to fill that role currently. Is going to be taking a loss against Shunga here. But taking a look at the HPs, right, we see Citadel Gaming sitting there up the top.
Loss.
Kaiwang on an 8 streak. Robin Song's on a 10 loss. So this is where it gets scary. But I think in a lot of situations, players in Robin's spot would have already leveled to 8 here and started rolling.
This is the comfort spot for this Citadel squad, though. They've got the 10-loss player. They've got the player with the win streak coming, which often is Kaiwang, actually. So Kaiwang's ability to build a strong board early needs to be studied, because the players are up against a crazy high quality, and he's still able to put together consistent win streaks. But coming in here, Robin's going to have a big few rounds here. Hopefully, the Citadel squad maybe tags one of your teammates who can just give you the win, give you extra time.
This is a pre-level to 8, about 70 gold to roll for Robin. Where will he find? It's going to be AP Direction. Karma already on the board. Jarvan 2 has been found as well. You're picking up all these items. Old man Robin has still got the quick fingers, it feels like, to piece this board together. Look at that beautiful 6 Sorks. Frontline is upgraded. Only 1 Karma, though, which you would love that to have, at least a pair at this point. But perfect items there. That was a solid roll down for Robin. I was a little worried, can Robin make this all happen in the transition for 1 turn? But he did it beautifully.
Expertly done, and stopped just in time as well. Realized, because there's the temptation to roll a little bit deeper here. Still has 20 gold, but has all the items to come through, especially now with power-ups being a factor. You have so much to do in a turn. You can't go all the way to 0. You have to stop at 10 and 20 and fix the board. Got himself online quick enough there to... The Jarvan 2 was the main hit that allowed him to just stabilize. He's won this round, expertly done. Yeah,
that was a great point. I think less experienced players would have just rolled and rolled and rolled, be like, oh, my carry is still only 1-star, that's not enough. But actually it is. It turns out if you just make your board good enough there, you're probably going to send all your gold down if you did roll and just not hit anyway, and not position correctly, not put all your items on, just be a little bit behind there. But Robin Songs, that is that experience that we see there in action.
Kaiwang, though, still looking for a rise, so would have liked to have found one potentially before your teammates, Robin's just leveled and threw one in. Robin would have liked to hold off on buying Rise until Kaiwang at least had one. Kaiwang, though, unfortunately is in the position where they are actually in Rise jail.
Ooh.
Yasuo has to go in for the time being. Though.
Yeah, great items on the Yasuo.
You have to itemize that, but we talked about the potential for Rise jail. As for now, we're still streaking, so it isn't a problem just yet, but could be very soon.
Absolutely. I think now is the argument of, hey, do I go to level 7 to have more odds of the Rise? I think the answer is yes there, especially with the Yasuo 3 already coming through, right? Maybe it's a little bit, unintuitive with like, oh, you have better odds to hit the Yasuos on 7, but you're already done so. Rise is the key, however.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I mean, we're 3 Mentor, and unfortunately, it means the streak might be coming to an end fairly soon. We do have an incredible setup for GP. We have really good Yasuo items as well. So we just need to get to that 1 Rise, as you've said, to really help stabilize us. We can see the power of this Boulevard unit just trying his absolute best here. Unfortunately, that Yasuo 3 is too tanky. GP with perfect items is just completely untouched. And 3 Mentor is maybe best in slot.
Yeah, I thought for a moment that the Volibear would be able to do it. I was like, oh, this is actually the exact part in the portion of the game where if you have Volibear too, he can actually win some rounds, do a lot of good work. It might fall off a bit later, but not even being able to do it now versus a Gangplank 2. Now a lot of damage, right, from the Yasuo 3 there was the saving grace. But still, very, very worrying for the Volibear board.
And we're checking in here with Ahao, who's one of the players that was flexing between potentially Sorks or Prodigy. But now Robin's hit that Sork board earlier than you. You're going 8 and rolling for units that are potentially out the pool. Achen here does have this Volibear line. It's solid, but I don't think it's ever going to be a lobby contester. And I don't think really Twisted Minds have anybody that you're looking at right now and thinking, okay, they're about to go on a crazy streak. Whereas Robin, very, very strong. 2 wins on the back. Dank Memes has HP to donate if he needs to. Kaiwang is just doing Kaiwang things and winning every round of the game. And another really solid spot for Citadel to be in. But this Volibear has came online and is coming up against Solus here and picking up an all-important round win for this Twisted Minds squad.
Now this is looking, maybe very long into the future, but what a treat it would be for Kaiwang to have this really be like the first major event that he's competed in and get like, MVP for multiple days in a row, maybe even the whole event, right? Looking forward, because the results are kind of speaking for themselves here. Kaiwang has top 4'd every single game so far, looking to be in a great spot to do it again. This is a young competitor who is not missing a beat.
Certainly isn't missing a beat. As we just have a glance over here, Flancy, we questioned what is the supporting unit to go alongside Ashe. TF is often the case. Does have a TF2 as well, so maybe actually will be able to make that line work, whereas it fell short in the past. Checking in here with Junjie, did hit the GP3, so those extra duplicators for being very, very important. So we suddenly have a player that you can look at as a win-out candidate. Did lose the last round though. So Kaiwang definitely is in a position where has went 7, now should try find this Rise. GP is just not an option. Just 4 left in the pool.
Comparing those 2 boards, though, while there is a GP3, there's not much else. There's no real extra power. There's not the Yasuo 3 power that Kaiwang has. The rest of the board looked rather sad over there. But for Flancy, this, like you said, might be the saving grace for Twisted Minds. This Twisted Fate's going to be so strong. The Ashe as well with the Flicker blades in the back line. The front line is rather suspicious, I will say, though. It kind of falls over with just being looked at.
Yeah, fell over really easily there. We do have little buddies, so we have this double Ashe set up with the TF. If we get to a set 2, which will be benefiting from that, there's a lot of Juggernauts which are just little buddies. They're just trait bots anyway. So it could work out. We've now hit Kabuko 3, so we've got Kabuko 3 and Yasuo 3 before a single copy of Rise, which is a really rare spot to be in, and it's just...
That's crazy.
I maybe cursed them earlier. I said, will we see a Rise jail be occurring? And this is the most Rise jail I could possibly
there's
see.
just an extra Udyr in there right now being like, hey,
we do have 4 Mentor.
It's like, I can be Rise, guys, please just let me be Rise, but no, not yet. Not wanting to overroll, I think, is very key for Kaiwang.
Healthy, yeah,
absolutely, still healthy. Even with losing a couple of rounds in a row, I think there's still a lot of boards that Kaiwang can at least contest, maybe beat, but maybe not have that bad of losses.
Yeah, Dank Memes on the other side early on had that Callista delayed start, and we thought, well, that can tempo really nicely into Soul Fighter, and does actually have Soul Fighter, so has set 2 online. Has an unitemized Samira though, so we took reinforcement, but TF2's arrived. So there's 2 TF2s in this lobby out of nowhere, seemingly.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
But it does mean that we're playing Soul Fighter, but we're not really carrying a Soul Fighter unit, so But again, Dank Memes is doing his job of just putting together a solid board. And it's just for this Citadel squad, how quickly can we get Kaiwang to a rise?
Absolutely, and the opposite of that is Robin Songs taking a loss, was on a 4 streak, but now is dangerously low. Yeah, Solus is low as well. This could be a situation where we see a 7-8 coming through for Citadels in Stage 5. Robin has hit the Karma 2, however, Solus has hit the Rise 3 alongside this Garen 3. I think the board is strong, but there's not guaranteed wins in these rounds. There is a lot of fight RNG. There is just bad matchups for Solus here, and taking one really bad loss will send him out in the bottom 4.
The problem with Solus's board is there's just not enough damage, really. We went for this. We've had to dig pretty deep for Garen, and in the process of it, we've hit Rakan 3, but we haven't got to a spot to ever go 8 for Yuumi. We still have an Ezreal on the board carrying a TGs. Caitlyn too actually does do a little bit of damage.
Yeah, not bad, especially when you're positioning like that, and Caitlyn's allowed to snipe across the map. Maybe in like 2 snipes, she can take out a backliner.
And save your HP as well. It should give you good losses. But Dank Memes here on a fairly solid line, but I feel like Robin's of the Citadel players, Robin's definitely has the strongest board currently. Until that Rise arrives.
Dank Memes up against Shunga on the left, and Robin Songs vs Fancy on the right. And this is an important round for Robin. Can he hang on? The front line is so strong. Jarvan doesn't even fall in the whole round, taking a big hit out of Flancy. And on the left as well, this is going to be a win for Dank Memes into Shunga. So there are members of Twisted Minds that are rapidly falling.
And how has Solus fared in this particular matchup? Garen is still alive, so that's a big turn for this Citadel squad.
Yeah.
The key wins coming through here. Happy to take that victory against Kaiwang. Has now got the Rise as well. Will now push levels. Is able to at least get that 4 Mentor online. GP3, not really an option, but does have a lot of HP to work with. And has, as you pointed out, the better setup around it. So all of a sudden, a lot of HP saved for that squad there. They just picked up 3 wins. The only loss was Kaiwang, who could take the hit. Suddenly a much healthier position to be in, but they are still facing 2 eliminations. Can one of them just eke ahead of this Twisted Mind squad?
Absolutely. Some important rounds yet again. And the Horizon Focus we didn't talk about much on the Jarvan, actually. Being that artifact is going to provide so much power. Robin going up against Dank Memes. And you were saying, you know, Robin's composition perhaps stronger. See if that is going to be the case here.
Well, Dank Memes has popped the TF items off, so should be able to guarantee the win for his teammate there.
Call.
On the right-hand side,
round.
we do see here CN versus CN matchup for Twisted Minds. Junjie took a really, really big loss to Flancy there, and Junjie is the GP player. And
Solus lost the round.
Solus down to 3 HP, Junjie down to 3 HP as well. So actually giving the win over there away from the GP player, you'd assume that GP is maybe a win-out option. All of a sudden now, facing down defeat, no chance of Kabuko. Rise doesn't do anything, unfortunately, for this unit. So when you are in a position where you're not tank components and you're itemizing Rise, it does feel a little bit worse. And as you've said earlier, the composition around this GP is really lacking.
Yeah, it is. The Rise, like you said, is, you know, a little bit of a thing that can help out, but not going to be as good as the other really capped out GP board here. Solus is on 1 life. Same with Shunga. Are these players going to fall in this round? Let's see. The Garen on the right is trying to find its way onto that Volibear, but the Edge of Night is still there. And actually, I think he dashes away before the Edge of Night procced. It looks like the Garen composition is so strong, though, but on the left,
side,
actually, Robin took out Shunga.
Robin picked up a huge win there, and as you said, Garen on this side as well. Looks like it's scaled long enough to be able to take down this Volibear as well. A massive round for Twisted for this Citadel squad.
Yeah, taking out Twisted Minds there. Shunga out in 8th place. Gangplank 3 and the Rise 2 was not enough, like you said. Just not enough damage coming through. Citadel Gaming once again proving that they can go toe-to-toe with the best of them and come out on top. The work isn't done yet. However, these next few rounds are still so important. And while they have a couple of players with a healthy HP lead, if Solus falls, right? If another member falls in the next couple of rounds with Robin being dangerously low as well, they could be in trouble.
Things are suddenly looking a lot better, though, just because the GPs are back in the pool.
True.
Kaiwang is suddenly now went from, can they win out, to yes, it's suddenly possible again. He has pushed levels to 8, so he's relying on finding, I think, 2 copies of GP.
Yep,
he was
2
aware.
copies left.
But it is now a possibility where that wasn't the case before. If they can send Achen down into 7th place here as well, then that would be such a great position for the Citadel squad. For Twisted Minds, though, I think having their GP player ultimately got in 8th place is just such a difficult position to be in. That's supposed to be your premier guy.
Solus against Dank Memes here on the left. That's Citadel Gaming facing each other. Same on the right with Achen versus Flancy. Can Achen and Solus hang on as well? Looking at the left at Solus, it is going to be that tank right already in the back line. The Garen is being cleaned up, though. It's already half HP. It is going to fall here soon. Solus being eliminated by Dank Memes, but Achen does hang on. Ahau, it looks like, fell as well, though. Which player had more HP at the end of it? Ooh, okay, we see Solus out in 7th, Ahau in 6th. Achen and Robin still, and Flancy actually on 1 life remaining.
Yeah, Robin, importantly, though, on this win streak is really, really strong.
Yeah.
We've seen them manage to transition this full loss streak into a solid Sork board, which is one of the win-out compositions, potentially. The stretchy arms volley bear is so much fun. I was watching that fight on the other side, and he's just free-firing away, sat in the corner, because he kind of leaps in there, and then it doesn't matter. Yeah, so then just stays there. Really fun unit to watch, and we should maybe see a little bit if it can fare up against this GP that Kaiweng's put together, and he has hit GP3.
We'll see. GP3 here, along with the Yasuo 3, and it looks to be so strong. The Gangplank is getting targeted now, however, but the CC that comes through there is going to send out Achen, and Citadel Gaming claim their 2-0 victory. They're popping off, excited, still undefeated in the tournament.
Still undefeated, another commanding victory. It looked a little sketchy for a while there. It wasn't as dominant as the previous game, but ultimately, in the end, Twisted Minds, 3 players in the bottom 4. You can hear the reaction from the Citadel squad. They're so happy to get themselves over the line here and through this group stage that ultimately had some really big hitters in. This Twisted Minds squad, not to be reckoned with at all. I mean, the amount of Crowns appearances, we've got a Worlds winner here, but yet this squad is just on the same page. And as soon as Junji fell out and your GP reroll, your win condition is gone completely. Not only is that a bad thing for you, but it allows Kaiweng to hit the GP for free, and suddenly the momentum shifted in that game.
Absolutely. Such a big momentum shift, right? And we had the questions of would Citadel Gaming be able to make that happen based on their early game strategy, right? You got Robin with that full loss streak. Look at him now. He's made his way into the top 4, even with losing 9-10 rounds in a row, dropping to 22 HP, I believe it was, before he had that massive pivot round. And again, it's the experience. I think that's why Robin, out of all of them, is being kind of dedicated to that maybe loss streak role, is because he's able to make it work, has so much experience with that being the strategy. And it's just so well done, again, in every single turn for Citadel Gaming. One of the only teams, maybe at this point, the only team to be undefeated in the tournament. Twisted Minds have to be thinking to themselves, right? We had such a close match yesterday. Now, today was just, you know, they kind of got stomped. So how do they recover from here? They will be moving to the decider match tomorrow, right? They're not out yet, but a long road potentially ahead of them.
I mean, they've just played a little bit more unconventional lines. Citadel have been happy to pivot into compositions which they know are strong. They have the players that are healthy contesting those lines. Frank Memes is playing Soul Fighter, which we haven't seen too much of today, but had a pretty clear direction for it and has made it work. As we can see, this is as strong of a variant as you can get of it. We've got the double set, we've got the TF to make up for that lack of damage, but unfortunately for this Twisted Minds squad, they weren't on the same page. I think they should have gave that round potentially to Junji when he went down to 1 life. They made the decision in that moment that, oh, maybe we don't think he can win out, but he's your GP player, so he's supposed to be your win out. So maybe that was a little bit of a misstep. Kaiweng was essentially slowed down on tempo in this one, but it didn't make much of a difference. As you've said, though, having Robin being the player that's going for this full loss streak, more comfortable if things go wrong. Because sometimes there's a little bit of a risk, especially for newer players. If you have someone like Kaiweng, who's your full opener, there's a bit more pressure on him to perform, and then if it does go wrong, maybe he doesn't handle the pressure as well. Whereas Robin's just saying, you tempo, you know how to make the best boards out of all of us. Feel free and go ahead. I'll just figure this one out, and he has figured it out time and time again.
That's an absolute key thing that I absolutely love is when teams utilize players' strengths as much as they can. If there's a player who's really good at finding these strong early boards, hey, you go do that. That is your role here. If you can, absolutely make it happen. I will lean, maybe in Robinsong's case, he's saying I'll lean towards this loss streak. I'm very comfortable with that. That is my strength. In any team game, any team format, you have to be thinking about that. And Citadel's Gaming did it very flawlessly. They didn't 1-2-3-4 again, but they did 1-2-3, and this is, I think, the most dominant series of the tournament so far, having 1-2-3-4, then 1-2-3.
It must be the case. I think the other 1-2-3-4 wasn't even in a 2-0, so
yeah, exactly.
They just really came in, and the most dominant group performance so far.
Absolutely.
Coming into this, I think yesterday I had them at a 2-1, a little bit of hope for my EU squad, EMEA squad more than anything. But coming into this, I mean, they must be favoured in almost any matchup, especially when some of the on-paper favourites, the likes of Falcons, have already fell out. And you look at this squad and think, well, they're just playing so clean. I think for maybe some of the other teams, VOD reviewing themselves is going to be less important than VOD reviewing the Citadel squad and learning what they're doing.
No, absolutely. I think Citadel Gaming is doing everything right, or at least a lot of things right. There's always room for improvement in TFT, and I'm sure even they recognize that, right? They're going to be VOD reviewing, doing the same exact things. I do actually want to bring up a point that you were talking about earlier, looking at this Dank Memes board. He's playing Soul Fighter, another kind of unconventional board. Yeah. Game number 1, Dank Memes was playing the Star Guardians, another kind of unconventional board. Maybe that's Dank Memes' role in this situation, is kind of play the less contested lines, but able to make them work and top 4 with them, actually, which has not been what the data suggests for day number 1.
Yeah, it's well spotted that he's got actually been leaning into a little bit more obscure things. He's got an Ashe on that board that he's made into an Edgelord, kind of just put things together. I think the TF definitely helped stabilize him a little bit here. I think Soul Fighter on its own is just lacking a little bit of power, and TF2 is just great on any board. And we see here, though, the power of GP time and time again, just able to farm away free gold, the double elimination for this Kaiwang GP board, and the 2-0 for this Citadel squad.
Absolute cinema. That is how you play it 4v4 in TFT, gentlemen. That was a masterclass. Absolutely.
Oh, I can't really speak high enough praises for the squad of Citadel Gaming. I don't think anybody imagined they would be this dominant coming into the event, especially going against such, at least on paper, powerhouse teams. They are so excited, and they deserve to be.
Yeah, they've done just so incredibly well. You can see what it means to them all. Now they get that day off as well to go away and potentially even study some of their matchups they could have if they have an idea of some of the teams they